Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Jake Demai, and I own a bookkeeping company in South Jersey. And I absolutely love my business. I love what I do, and I make these videos because I'm excited to share a little bit about my experience, kind of what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me. And in this video, I want to talk about why I will never go back to being an employee. I am sold on this entrepreneurial life, and I will never go back. And I assume that a lot of people watching this video are current employees. You're currently working for somebody else. You're currently indebted to them. You're basically a slave to them, and you have to do what you're told. You have to wear what they want you to wear. You have to show up where they want you to show up. And I get it. I was an employee for 7 years before I started my business as a side gig. And it wasn't until I guess 8.5 years in is when I was able to quit my full time job to start my business. So I get it. And the reason I started my business was because I hated being an employee that much. That's why I started my business. I hated the employee life. I hated the low pay. I got paid. I started out of college making about $54,000, and then by the end of my employee journey, I think I was making about 80,000 with bonuses, and so it was low. It wasn't nothing. I was happy about it. I was it was meeting my family's needs, but it was growing at a pretty slow pace. So it was low pay. It was high demand. I worked in the tax industry. And so I was doing tax seasons, which are no fun. If you're in the tax world, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You really can't make any plans in the spring. You can't work on your garden. You can't go to Florida in February. You can't spend time. You can't do baseball practice with your kids. You can't really do much in the spring. You can't have New Year's resolutions because they're going to get bombed in February and March. This was the first year I was able to actually accomplish some of my exercise goals. I ran a half marathon in April, and I never could have done that if I was working in taxes. Another reason why being an employee is terrible is, and again, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure you're listening to this video because you're currently an employee. But just to paint you a picture, maybe you resonate with this stuff. I hated having to account for all of my time and justify my time. I worked at a firm that required me to record my time basically by the minute, by the hour. And so every day I had to record 8 hours of work, whether that was administrative work, and if that's the case, it was non-billable, or if it was billable. I had to record all my time, and I would record it on a notepad, and then I would transfer it to their software. And I hated that because it puts you on the clock, and every time you went to the bathroom, every time you got a cup of coffee, anytime you talked to a coworker, anytime you had a personal emergency, all of that had to be accounted for, and you had to report back to the boss man. And I hated that. And then, PTO was great. I think I got like 4 weeks of PTO, which I love. And I had time to, for my kids when they were born. I think I must have had I guess I used all my PTO for when my kids were born. And that was nice. And that is, I think, the one pro to being an employee is you get personal time off. So, that's great. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth it. And I really struggled with it. And the last thing I'll say about being an employee is that, you have no control over the work that's given to you, and you have no control over the policies at work. And so I know, for me, there were a few people that I had trouble working for because I worked in a CPA firm with many partners, and there were a couple partners that I just really didn't want to work for because they were hard to work with. They gave me work that wasn't exciting, that was beneath me, and I kind of resented them for that, but I had no choice. I had to do the work no matter what. I couldn't say no to anything. So that was very annoying to me. Now, with my new life as a bookkeeping business owner, everything is different. Now, I will say this: if you're thinking about starting a business and if you're thinking about starting a business that's not a bookkeeping business, then this might not apply because I think a bookkeeping business is really special. I think it's an extremely special business for a few reasons. One is it's like anti-emergencies. There are no emergencies or there are hardly any emergencies in the bookkeeping world. What I do is monthly financial statements. I don't pay bills. I'm not filing sales tax. I'm not sending out invoices, and because of that, there's rarely like an urgent need. And so, the work is spread out throughout the year. I provide monthly statements, and so every month I do the same work. And what I love about that is with recurring monthly revenue, I don't have to guess how much I'm going to make in the following month. Once I land a client, let's say for $350 a month, they're my client for basically their life. For as long as they're a company that is existing, they're going to need me for bookkeeping help. And that's like, it provides an insane amount of security knowing that, okay, right now I have 50 clients. They're all paying me 350, 400, even $850 a month. And I can bank on that for each month because each of them pay me via an automatic ACH transfer or credit card transfer. And it's amazing. I never have to worry about, whether I'm going to get paid. But the entrepreneurial life for a bookkeeper is amazing because the pay is basically unlimited. Like I mentioned, the highest amount I made as an employee was around 80,000. That was like the most I made as an employee. Now, as an entrepreneur in the bookkeeping space, 4 years in, I'm on track to do about 225,000 in profit. So that's like that's profit. That's after expenses. And guys, that's just like that's insane. Like that's unbelievable. And I think you know, for me as just the most average person, um, that's the reason why I'm making these videos, because I know that there are a ton of people out there just like me that are not special by any means, who have skills in the accounting industry and they want to maybe go out on their own. I'm here to tell you that you can do it. You should do it. If you have a normal personality, if you have above average skills, this is the time to start a bookkeeping business. Rarely, it's been a long time. Maybe 10 years ago, this bookkeeping business idea wasn't as lucrative because a lot of people were using the desktop version of QuickBooks. You had to show up to somebody's office to do the bookkeeping. Now everything can be done remotely. You can get bank access, you can get QuickBooks access, you can get payroll access. And so all of this is now available to bookkeepers, and that's one of the biggest pros. I don't have to leave this office. I can stay here. I can work on all 50 of my clients throughout the month. I don't have to see anybody face to face. I don't have to schedule any meetings technically, and so that's just one of the big pros to this. And then another reason why starting a bookkeeping business is amazing is because of the flexibility I have. I am able to leave whenever I want. I can take off however long I want to take off. I can, I can address any family emergencies without having to justify that or tell anybody. I can basically control my life. Today, I went for an hour-long run, and I didn't have to tell anybody that. I didn't have to explain why I wasn't in the office. And that was just one of it's one thing I take for granted now that was amazing to me when I first started my business. But now I live my life the way I want to live it, and you can't really put a price tag on that. And so I could never go back to being an employee because right now, like, I just have the most flexible, high paying job you could possibly ask for. And so if you're interested in starting a bookkeeping business, stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a lot of these videos because, again, I want to educate people on how to do it. I want to explain and kind of walk through my experience so that people can follow the way I did it and they can do it themselves. So if you're interested, stay tuned, and I'll keep the videos coming.